Welcome to From Fizzle to Sizzle, how to get your sex drive back after having kids for more satisfaction, intimacy, and joy in your life. I'm your host, Brittany Jones, and today we're speaking with Luba Venable. She lives the American dream. Coming from a childhood in Soviet Ukraine, Luba followed her dreams and came to America to work for Google. Luba has since learned the microcosmic orbit from Master Mantak Chia. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yes.
Great. Tantra from Charles Muir, and intimacy from the Human Awareness Institute. Luba's mission is to remove the taboo around sexuality. Her speaking leaves audiences inspired, emotional, and ready to take on new possibilities. Luba makes the world a brighter place by running online workshops aimed at helping women fall in love with their own bodies. She lives with her husband and 2-year-old son in the redwoods of Northern California. Thank you so much for being here, Luba. I'm so honored to have you on the show.
Thank you, Brittany. This was such a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Well, you're a beautiful human. I've loved our talks, and I already have learned so much from you just in the short time that we've known each other. So I'm really excited to share your knowledge about body acceptance and body love. So my first question is, why is it so important to have body acceptance and body love if you want to have true intimacy and great sex?
Yeah, I feel like that has been a journey for me. I learned sexuality from different angles. So the three main ones are Tao teachings, and then Tantra and scientific research. And so what is very interesting, all three of them say that the very first ground rule for satisfying sex is to love, accept, embrace our bodies. And so there is correlation. The more we the more we enjoy, the more I enjoy my body, the more I can enjoy sex. So it's very connected. That's why loving body and accepting body, it's so important for enjoying sex.
So why do you think that is? Why, if you don't love and accept your body, what's going on during sex that just isn't making it that great?
So it's like, I go into having this having sexual experience. It's all about like relaxing, right? And like just being into there. And just like when I don't like something, then I'm like, it's in my head, it starts happening like, oh, like what if my partner sees it? Or like I remember just not accepting my genitals. And so every time that like when partner is giving me oral sex, I'm like, oh my God, he's looking there and he sees it. And like, oh my God, like we have to like turn off light or something. So this type of thoughts that like, oh, I have to look this angle, or like, let me not show that, it affects how we open up and how we can be in the moment and how we can be present. So that's part of it. Yeah.
Where do those insecurities come from? I mean, I'm sure a lot of them come from childhood. However, especially in America, what's going on with that? Where do we get these insecurities from?
Yeah, this is a very good point. I think social media is like something that starts us on this, and then we all take it and then we carry it. And so as a little child, like we being little, we have no idea what part of our body is perfect and what is not perfect. But then someone tells us. So like I have almost 3 years old son. And like I remember when him having these like fat rolls, like fatty thighs, we were so adored by this. We were like, oh my God, look, it's so cute. And then no one was like, oh my God, this child is like fat or imperfect. But then how about when we look at women or men who have like some belly or some like extra weight, like why we are not adored of that? That's like part of like, we all human beings, just like look at us, we all beautiful and amazing and magnificent, and we are also different. And then we have this image, which is like on advertisement, in movies, in porn, and then everyone is trying to be like that, but it's impossible. It's like, let's say there is a rose flower and a tulip flower. And imagine like a rose is so beautiful, and then tulip decides that I want to be like a rose. And it tries to be like a rose. And like, good luck with that. There is no way, right? but tulip is so gorgeous and beautiful. And there are people who love roses, and there are people who love tulips, and we're so different and so beautiful. And I go to workshops where we have like 60 people in the room, and then the question comes up, like, raise your hand if you ever judged your body. Every hand goes up. And then I look around like, okay, you and you, like, you look perfect. Like, why would you raise your hand? It doesn't matter how we look. It's like, it's all about how we accept and how we love our bodies.
Yeah.
So that's something, that we are dealing with receiving these messages from people around us.
It's funny because as you mentioned that people who look, perfect and how they still don't even accept their bodies. And, I think about people getting plastic surgery and wanting to make a certain part of their body look a certain way. And as, a feminist or as a person who accepts people and is like, okay, with whatever people choose to do, however people choose to express themselves, part of me wants to be like, yeah, if you want, something different, you want your butt to look different, or you want to get implants or tummy tuck or whatever, like, go for it, And then part of me is like, well, is that a form of not accepting yourself? Is that a form of even self-hatred, that you feel like you need to alter this body that was given to us by, source or the divine? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what do you think about that? I don't like judging people because I know a lot of people that have plastic surgery, and I have a lot of friends that get injections. And, I've even thought like, oh, as I'm getting older, I'm 40, I'm seeing little wrinkles in my lips. I'm like, do you think I should get a little something in there? Just to make myself like, I don't know, just feel a little more, sexy or a little more jazzy or whatever, So I think it's a hard line to walk.
Yeah. This is interesting. You mentioned in it that again, like, coming from how we have this, like, some, like, you have to be like this way, look like forever. And with the age, like, we change, right? Like, how we looked in 15 years old, then like 25, then 35, 45. And what if we could embrace because every stage of life is so beautiful and it has its beauties to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I laugh a lot, and I started noticing that I have these wrinkles like around and I'm like, oh my God, I should laugh less, because that's like, see what I'm doing to my body.
Yeah.
And then I shared with my husband, and he's like, oh my God, but they add like wisdom to you, that this, like, that you go through this life, and I love them. They're just like, like, that he will kiss them, and then I'm like, yes, this is how I am. And then I have these beautiful examples, like 80 years old woman who, like, yes, she has wrinkles, but she just embraces and loves her body so much that, like, he will get on the stage and dance, that all the audience just stands up in the end. And when I'm looking at someone like that, I don't afraid to age anymore, because I know it will be next stage, and yes, I will have wrinkles, and like I will be different, but it will be beautiful as well. So that's that's the point.
I always find that interesting when I'm looking at other people that are have bodies that don't look like the ones we see in magazines, or hypersexualized bodies or whatever. And I see them, and I see that beauty when they're confident in it. I love the body positive movement where, women with bigger bodies are wearing bikinis on the beach. And like, years ago, I know women that have bigger bodies that would never have gone, I even, after having my kids when they were little, I didn't go, I love the beach. I love the beach so much. And when my body was not acceptable to me, I would go to the beach with my kids, but I wore one of those like like call it like a grandma bathing suit, like with the skirt and like totally covered up, and which is fine, they can be cute. However, I wouldn't go with my friends to the beach. Like, I didn't want my friends to see me in a bathing suit. And I was denying myself the pleasure of enjoying the beach with my friends because I was having this shame around my body.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between like having shame around your body and just not liking your body or just not accepting your body? Like what's that about?
Yeah, I think thank you for sharing that. That's a vulnerable part to talk about. That how we have these different stages, and from where we have these like different ideas or stories or shame, it comes that like someone told us. So there is always like in my workshops we have this exercise that like think of a body part which you just don't like the most, and then when you think about it there is story attached to it. So it's never that like, oh, like it's never logical. There are emotions, there is shame, and there is always story. It's like starts with parents or siblings or friends or like whoever. And for me, I remember getting pregnant. That like how we have this like the idea, for example, belly. Like not many people who love their bellies. And I remember my mom always was saying me that like suck it in, like especially for the picture, like you know, like pull it in, like your belly is sticking out too much, like just.
Yeah.
And when I'm relaxed, this is my posture, like I kind of like put it out there. But she was always reminding me. And I remember getting pregnant and my belly is growing, and I know in my head it's normal, there is baby there, yes, belly is growing, but the shame came in, like I wanted to hide it. I was just like, I wanted like to suck it in, but like it's, you can't do that, right? So it took me some work, with like some sessions to really accept that like, yes, hey, there is baby, like the belly is growing and it's going to become huge and it's okay.
Yeah.
Another example I have on my body, that I remember not liking my breasts, and they're small size, and I'm like late in my puberty, and I remember how like girls started having like their breasts growing and mine didn't, and then even later they still didn't, and my mom has like beautiful big breasts. And I remember she was saying like, oh, too bad you didn't inherit my breasts, so yours are kind of like little, so sorry about that. And then my male friends will like talk like, oh, that girl is so hot, she has this like big boobs, and I'm sitting and like, like, and mine are not cool. So just not liking them, I started like round my back and like growing, remember growing long hair to like hide them, and like I was embarrassed about them. And it's interesting how this like my attitude towards them just created that I didn't feel them. Like during sex, like you can touch my knee and it was more sensitive than my breasts because I completely neglected it. So it's interesting example of how our idea, what we create about our body, it can even desensitize it. And then with my pregnancy, I had this like interesting experience of transformation, something that happened with me, like for me with pregnancy, and I think we can create it in our heads. So I got pregnant, my breast grew, and then when I started breastfeeding, they were like getting with milk like very big, like, you know, like implants, like, so I would look in the mirror and like, wow. And then I had my little baby who, the moment he sees me naked, the moment he sees my breasts, he just goes crazy. He's like, mama, and he just jumps on it. And so I had for a couple of years, I had this experience that I have them big, and then my son just loves them. I was teasing my husband that you never been so crazy about my breasts. And so now they're back. They're the same, exactly the same size, but I feel different. You know, through this experience, I was able to fall in love with my breasts, and now I really love them, and I don't care like what size they are. And like now I feel them, like they're more sensitive, and now I enjoy them. So, you know, so that's like how it can go through the like what we create in our mind, how we can change, how we can shift that.
Yeah, that's amazing to just even have the experience of loving something that you hated before and then teaching your brain, oh, this is something I love now. And then even though they went back to a, you know, more towards your regular size before you were pregnant, you still have that same love for them, which is awesome. That's really, really cool. That's a wonderful, I love that story. That's such a beautiful story. And I think that if we could all recognize, you know, and really look at our least favorite part of our body, and then, you know, talk to ourselves about it, you know. So you actually have kind of a system for people to start accepting their body. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, what was the, you said that, so one of the things you can do is to think about your part of your body that you don't like very much, and then start to think about what the story is around it, and de-story that a little bit. And then are there like affirmations you can do, or what do you recommend for that?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. We do it in the workshop setting, and again, like people can do it on their own. That one thing to identify that body part, so that now when we know that, like, if I don't like my nose, it has nothing to do with my nose. There is a story attached to it. So just to find that story, and then when I know that story, one thing is that I know it, another thing is to tell it to other people. So we do this paired exercise when person shares about the body part and then the story attached to it, and it can be very vulnerable and it can be uncomfortable, and can be resistance to that, but there is some power that, you know, when we have, like, when it's just secret, no one knows, like when I was hiding my breasts, it's just like I put a lot of energy into that. But the moment when I reveal it, when I say it to one person and then to another person, there is like some ease, and it just like I kind of let it go. It becomes like, oh, it's just a story. I start believing it, that like when I tell it to people. And then and as well, how we have the stories, we can look to understand more this system. We can look at the body part that we love. That for example, for me, my favorite body part is my butt. And I have a story. I know how it became favorite, because when we were in a camp with like little girls, like I was like 10 years old, we had this competition who has the best butt, and I was the winner, you know. So that helped me. And because
awesome.
I love it, I received compliments. It's sensitive, and you know, so it's like opposite. So it's good to look at from a different angle as well.
Yeah.
And then the next step is to get naked and look in the mirror. And then like to look in the mirror, like through this glance of like, I'm so amazing. Like I'm like, I came like not judging that, like, oh, like this, that, like I need to get rid, just like looking that I'm this human being. I was sent to the planet and I'm just perfect the way I am. And just like if there is a love handle, just like, oh, like to touch it, to look at it, and like, oh, you're so cute, you're so adorable. And then like belly or any, you know, any breast, like anything that part, like just like to look and embrace yourself. And it might not work that way from the first time, but just to do it as a practice, to look in the mirror and just to open heart, to look with the heart, and to adore yourself. And then the next step is to dance.
Okay, I want to stop you though, because I have, when you look in the mirror, when I look in the mirror, my eyes go directly to the part I don't like.
Okay.
So I know you were saying like look at it through your soul, or look at it, you know, like, okay, so I need you to get a little more specific about when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, what can you just say to yourself, or when your eyes are going directly to that part and you just can't, like, how do you get around that? How do you really get around that? You know you're supposed to, you know, I know I love and accept myself fully, completely, and deeply, and I do things like that. And then you look and you go, you know. So it's a great idea, and so in theory, and I'm imagining when I do it and I'm trying to do that and it's just not working. What's that?
Yeah. You know, it's like it comes in layers. It's not that like you just look at yourself and you've like suddenly in love with yourself. So you have to identify story first, and right, like to understand that that's the story. And then when we look at that part, just like to really like look at like imagine your child has like, you know, a love handle or like a belly. then like, do you look and think that like, oh, that's an awful belly? You're like, you're adorable. Like, no matter what, you're adorable.
Yeah.
And talking about belly, like, for example, my husband has a little bit of belly, and I know that he's self-conscious. Then because I love him and I have such an amazing sex, he's just like my, you know, like sexual hero. Like, I noticed when I went to a yoga studio, I saw a similar belly and I got turned on, you know, just just how it's crazy how our mind works, right?
Yeah.
I never thought I will get turned on a belly. I thought it has to be a six pack, but because my husband has this belly and I love it so much, so it can be your partner help, you know, when you involve your partner and ask them to like, you know, like to touch it or describe how they feel about it.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions as well. And I want to get back to the 4 steps. Oh, let's do the 4 steps first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this other question that I have. So you look in the mirror, you see the story, you de-story it a little bit, and then what's the next step?
And the next one, like when you're ready to dance for yourself, like to put on hot music and just to be naked and just get goofy and silly and just like to dance the hell out of it. And like I am not like a great dancer, but I love to dance, you know, and it took me some time to really allow myself to just like to dance for myself and like to shake that body and to really enjoy it, and said like, yes, Luba, go.
Does this have to be in front of the mirror, the dancing, or can you like do you do the dancing in front of the mirror?
Dancing is good in general, but
Okay.
for this specific practice, that like after you looked at yourself and like you're ready to dance for yourself, just dance and look. That like dance for yourself. Like, how would you dance for someone? Just looking in the mirror, being naked, and dance with all the imperfect, you know, like anything imperfect you have, like with all of that. Because, you know, the saying that I love you not despite of your imperfections, but I love you because of your imperfections. All the imperfections make you unique because you have those parts that are different from others. You're unique, and that's just, you know, just to embrace it and to celebrate it.
Yeah. Okay. So then what's the next step? This is both exhilarating and terrifying to me to talk about.
I know. Yeah, it's a stretch. And like when we stretch, we grow, right? We get to the next level.
Right.
So, and the final step is to dance in front of your partner if you have one. And that's super vulnerable because there is all of these thoughts going that like, oh my God, like he or she thinks I am good. I am whatever, I am like fine, but what if I dance naked with all my goofiness, and you know, like what if they like stop loving me, or you know, what if they see something? But then what happens that like when they see us in this just not perfect state, then it just like it's more connection, it's more openness, more vulnerability there. So it's like it has to come, you know, like over time, like every step has to come after next one. When this one is already comfortable, then the next one comes.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying as well. I mean, being completely naked, like I love to dance. My husband and I dance, we go out dancing, and I know that he loves my body, and he's very, very sweet and wonderful to me about my body. And so that's, I guess, would be the next question. How can a partner support someone who is having a lot of body shame or body hatred and not accepting their body? What can the partner, and I want to preface this by, you know, I read a lot of things about this, and I read blogs and things that my boyfriend doesn't like my body. When a partner expresses they don't like a part of your body, should you leave that person? I mean, you know, should partners just realize, hey, you know what, I may not like, you know, this may not be my preference. It's not even that I don't like it. Like, I just have a thing, or, you know, maybe I have a fetish for butts, and my partner's butt isn't the shape that I have, you know, interest in as much. So let's do that first. How do you do that with your partner? Like, you're like, oh, that's not my favorite thing about them. what do you do to still love and accept their body? And then how do you help them if they have a lot of body issues, love and accept their own? Too many parts of that question?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, yes. This is like it's you know, it's very legit question. Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of people experience that. It goes two ways.
Yeah.
When I love something, even it can be like not in that standards, you know, like they don't show it that way in like porn or social media. But when I love something, other people love that too. That's one way, right? So a different way how partner can support. And this is like, you know, like when we are together, we like, there is a reason like why we are together, right? We might not like, maybe like bodies are not like for example, my husband has nothing to do with that perfect man I was picturing in my head. But when I met him, I realized that that was bullshit. That doesn't matter. That's him, you know, and all his imperfect parts, I embrace them. And because I love him, I love his soul, and I accepted everything, right? So what really helps that when like touch is very healing. And it's like, you know how often we use touch for foreplay, like to prepare someone for sex, but it's very important to separate it. Like it can go there too, but just like to have touch without sexual agenda. Just imagine you're laying on a bed and your partner, just like some music, some nice music playing, and your partner starts like with your face, just like very gently, like pouring love through their fingertips, just touching your ears, hair, and then slowly start moving and like caressing your whole body. And it can go for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, like, you know, or longer, depending how you feel. And then when they stop at the body part that they know you don't like, you judge, what if they stop there and they say something? They say, you know, like some words of like, you are so precious to me, you are so beautiful to me, and you're just, thank you for being here. If it's a belly that like you had, like you gave birth to those kids, and you're so beautiful the way you are, and you're so important. And then just like kiss that body part, you know, and just like keep moving, and stop at another body part. And that, I find that touch, when it's separated from sex, it's just so healing and so connecting for partners.
Yeah.
And it helps to heal the body image.
Yeah, that's really sweet. That's really sweet. And I think it's really important to have to recognize, to have that non-sexual touch and let them know ahead of time, like, let's just have some touching right now that's not going to lead to sex, and just make that commitment. At least it won't lead for the first 20 minutes. You know, let's just have 20 minutes of healing
If it
touch.
happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But you don't have it as a goal, right?
I know, but for us, if you didn't put a time limit on it, like, you know, it would be like,
You know yourself. And Brittany, to add to that, how often, if I don't like something, I will not share with my partner. I will hide it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very important step, to just like sit there. And it's not easy, but just like, you know, to overcome that, and just to get really vulnerable, to say like, I don't like my breasts. Like, you know, I know like I should love them, but I just don't. And you know, like to be open about that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, then it helps to go deeper with all the practices.
Yeah. It's so much easier to see when you have someone to help you see it through their eyes. I really do think, you know, because same thing with my husband. He is a big guy, and I literally woke up the other morning, and we had a really nice evening together, very passionate. And I woke up, and he got out of bed, and my immediate thought when I looked at him was, I love that body, because it made me feel so good the night before. You know what I mean? I woke up in this like state of, I love that body. And he's not a body typical that people, you know, are no six pack going on and everything, you know, he's a big guy. And I loved it. I loved it so deeply. And it really, after we had been talking too, this has been this is a big subject for me in my journey in my life. And so, you know, I was really thinking when that happened, I thought, oh my gosh, this is exactly what she's talking about, you know, and if I look at him and feel that way because of the experiences that he gives me with that body of his, what, why do I not recognize that he feels the same way about my body? You know, like, how
Yes,
can
yeah, you
I, like,
do.
wait a minute. And he tells me all the time, like all the time, you know, how he appreciates me and loves me and finds me attractive and desirable, all that, all the time. And I wasn't believing it. I wasn't believing it. I wasn't believing it. And then when I felt that towards him, I was like, oh, it's possible. You know, I get it now. I totally get it. And so it really was very interesting shift in my perspective, you
Wow.
know, and
Wow.
everything that we've been through in the last few years, that piece was still missing for me. And so it's been really an interesting journey. And it was after talking to you, so it's just like little building blocks, you know, happening. And
Wow.
um,
That's so amazing. Oh
yeah,
my
yeah,
God.
it's really, you know, and I want to say to people, to our audience, this is the power of it. You know, I just feel so differently. So when you start to become aware and you start to have that self-awareness and you start to see yourself through the eyes of your loving partner. So some people, most people here watching are in a relationship, and you know, this is for designed to help people spice up their sex lives and long-term relationships, and body love and body acceptance is a big, huge part of that. And um, what can people, so if you can't see yourself through the eyes of your partner, where else should you tap into?
Mm. You mean like when you're not in relationship?
Yeah, just for those who maybe aren't in a relationship.
Yeah. I think it goes into this like you know when I love my body, like when I'm in love with my body, if you come to me and say like, hey, there is that very cool star like Angelina Jolie, or you know someone who is like super beautiful, you can switch bodies. Like this is just like one time deal. You can switch bodies, and your response should be like, oh no, like they are beautiful and it's all cool, but my body, it's so imperfect, but I love it so much, and I'm not going to switch it like with anyone.
Yeah,
And it takes, you know, it takes time to just like piece by piece, part by part, to like really, like, you know, like just to cultivate it. It doesn't happen overnight. It would be nice to
yeah,
have a peel and like to fall in love with the body.
yeah,
But it just like it takes some time, and it's all inside us. So what you're describing is beautiful too, like when you have a partner who's helping for you to see.
yeah.
And then when you don't have that, like I remember looking for that partner who can give me amazing sex. And I went through so many partners, and there were like very experienced ones. And it just like, I didn't have that because I wasn't in that place. No matter how
Mm,
experienced partner, what they do to you, when I'm not in that place of like deeply receiving and like enjoying, there is no partner who can give it to us. So
mm-hmm.
it's like, it's internal, it's very deep internal work. And it's like, it's going like doing this since like, you know, like being like comfortable with myself the way I am. And like the way I am, I am just like, you know, magnificent, and you are magnificent, and we are so different.
Yeah,
But that's the beauty, that we are different. And in this difference like that, imagine if we all looked the same, that would be boring, right?
yeah, that'd be
We're
boring.
so different, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Um, and I think it's just society that's told us that one thing is better than the other. And of course, when we look back into the history of you know, you look at Renaissance art, what was considered attractive then, and what was the, you know, fashion then, those bodies that you see in the Botticelli paintings and things like that, those are totally different bodies than what's popular now, you know. And then you went through the even in the fashion industry, you went through that like really skinny twiggy phase, like where that was considered like super skinny. no chest. I had to tell you, I used to be jealous of women who had small breasts. Literally, I was like,
There
oh
you
my
go.
gosh. I mean, yes, I have more typical, what people would say, oh, those are great breasts or whatever. And I would see women who didn't have large breasts and they could wear a tank top without a bra and like look super cute, and they have this little like tomboy thing going on, or maybe they were super feminine and they could wear these dresses that just, it was so beautiful to me. It was so free when I could, when I saw that women with that shape. And it wasn't even just skinny women. It was just women without big breasts, who had smaller breasts. I was like jealous, sometimes. So I'm just saying, then when I think about that, I'm like, oh, everybody's different. Everybody's beautiful. Everybody's coveted by somebody. Everybody wants a different kind of somebody. We tend to in society, worship youth and boobs and butts and, and the skinny waist, and which now things are changing. I mean, there's so many people doing a lot of great work in social media, normalizing typical bodies, normalizing bigger bodies, normalizing smaller bodies, normalizing everybody, different shapes, different colors, and even disabilities. Like there's just more people being, so I think that's really a wonderful, beneficial thing. And I think it's going to really help our children. Before I get to the question about our children, I have one more question to ask you. When thinking about loving your body, what's the difference between someone who is like loving their body, so they are eating, nourishing foods and making sure they're getting, physical activity that's pleasurable for them, and what's the difference between that and someone who's dieting and working out to achieve a certain look or shape? Like, what's that? Because when you love your body, you want to take care of it, right?
Exactly. Yes.
You want, and can it teeter into that thing like, oh, I want to take care of my body because I love myself, and I secretly kind of want to look like that,
Yeah, like love and body, it comes like, it's not only like the outside, it's like getting connected, that I can feel my body, and my body, it's like talking to me. It's constantly talking. Like when I don't listen to it, then I will get sick, because my body is constantly telling me that like you're too tired, or you're not taking care of yourself, or you're doing something that is not good for me. Like, hey, like look at me, it's screaming at us. And so this connection with the body, it's not only looking in the mirror and saying I'm great, it's just like really like, like creating this friendship, this very tender friendship with my body, that that like when I eat something, like some foods that like I eat and I feel like energized and I feel good. There are other foods that make me want like to die, or like to fall asleep, right? So like when I notice, the more I connect to my body, I want to feed something good to it. I have no problem to buy something more expensive, or to make an extra trip to get some like really good product and put in my body. And then when I exercise, so like if I shame myself that like, oh, this belly has to disappear, then I will exercise for 1 week, and then the whole shame make me eat that whole cake. Because like when we're so shaming, it's like when I'm shameful, I want to hide and do even worse. But when I come from this love perspective, that like I want to stretch myself, I want like to create this like the blood moving, my body feel alive, then I exercise from that place. It's like nourishing my body, feeding my body, And then I want to add, you reminded me like talking about how like the grass is greener on another street, how we like something in other people and not in us. Like I want curly hair my whole life, but it's straight, and when I talk to curly hair girls, they straighten it. Like, why do we do this? Like, enjoy your hair.
Yes. That's like my sister. She has red hair and I have blonde hair. And I have always been jealous of her because she had red hair. It's beautiful, thick red hair growing up, and still to this day, she's just gorgeous red hair. And then she was like, well, I was jealous of you for being like the, blonde and being, like the typical California girl blonde. And I was like, really? Why would you want to be blonde? It's so boring. So funny.
And it reminds me, I was at a workshop and then it was clothing optional. Most people were naked. And then a woman is passing by and I look at her breasts and they look perfect. And I'm like, oh my God, if I only could have such breasts. And then later she's sharing in front of everyone and she talks how she's not accepting her breasts and how she doesn't feel them. And like all this judgment about her breasts, right? It's just like we are crazy like that. What if we stop it?
Yeah, when you really think about it, it is crazy. Like, it's insane. And I just wish we would have more conversations, because just in this conversation alone, we came up with like 4 different examples of people wanting something that's different than theirs and that person wanting something different than theirs. And it's just like, oh my gosh, we're crazy.
Yes.
So I think a lot of this does come though from childhood, and not, not just, I didn't have Instagram growing up, but there were magazines and movies and TV and also, my parents had their own ideas about bodies. I grew up in Hollywood, so they had some definite ideas about bodies. And so, and not, I love and accept them. And I know where they have their own stories. And how can we help our children begin at the beginning loving themselves, so they don't have to be 35, 40 years old going to a workshop to love themselves, which it's great that you have workshops, but like, how can we help our children?
Yeah, it's like me as a beginner parent, like I have 3-year-old, and that's the big question, that like how I help him to be healthy. And what I'm realizing, I can't teach him something that I don't do, I can't teach him to love his body if I don't love mine. So knowing this, and first time I heard it, it sounded like crazy, but like, thinking more through this, like kids, like they're not doing what we tell them, they're doing, like they're embracing what they see in us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they embrace like the worst from us on some reason, and then they drive us crazy. So let's say my child is like looking in the mirror and says like, oh, I don't look good. And then I say, oh no, honey, you look amazing, you're so gorgeous, you're beautiful. And they will be like, okay. And then later I look in the mirror and say like, oh, this belly, this hair, ooh. And then like when they see that, what will be more effective, what I told them or what I do to myself? Of course, what I do to myself, that's something that they see and they learn from us. So that's like, for those who are not ready to fall in love with their bodies for themselves, we have to do it for our kids. To have our kids love their bodies, we have to love our bodies, and then we can help them, like they will learn it from us. And another thing that for the body parts, that like when I watch cartoons, I see this, like in the cartoons they name eyes, like nose, lips, like shoulders, but there is nothing about genitals. It's like we don't have them. like I couldn't find anything when they say, like when the name genitals, or like a butt, there is no butt too, no breasts. Like what's going on? Like children grow like not kind of like ignoring, and when they ask, finally they're like, oh mommy, what is there like down there? The mommy will be like, oh, don't talk about it, like get all weird. So what I do, like what I'm practicing, my 3-year-old, he can name all parts, including his penis, testicles, butt, breasts. And then when he sees me naked, he's asking like, hey mommy, why do you have hair like there? Why you don't have penis? So we have that conversation at 3-year-old. And then like, why you have hair there? So we have that conversation that you will have hair later too. So yeah, that's, I think, is like another, just again with sexuality, we can teach them to be comfortable with sexuality only when we are comfortable.
Yeah.
That's why we are watching your show, Brittany.
Yeah. And yeah, that's definitely, I have one example of that, and then we'll wrap it up. I realized that even though I tell my kids, your bodies are amazing, they're special, they're beautiful, they are so functional, and I tell them all the parts of their bodies and what they do for them, like how amazing your feet help you, you stand on the ground with your feet and your legs, you can run and play with your legs. And I tell them all the things that their body can do. Each body part can do all these amazing things. And then I was getting on the scale every morning, And we at the time had the scale in the kitchen because the bathrooms didn't have, and I would pull it out and I'd get on it and I'd go, or I'd go, oh, okay, whatever, I'd have a reaction to it. And one day I saw my child get on the scale and go, oh, mommy, I gained weight. And I wanted to die. I mean, I literally was like, no matter how much I was telling my children that, you're, even if the doctor says you're a few pounds overweight, they have the bell curve and all that stuff. I say, you're a growing person. It's going to change all the time. Just your body changes every minute of your life, And then when I saw that look on her face, I just was like, I have to change. And so even when I wasn't believing it myself and can't fully embody it or having a day where I'm just like not doing well with it, I fake it. I fake it for my children. And I'm like, I fake it till I make it. You know what I mean? Like I'm faking it. And I think I've come a long, long way. Trust me, like I'm not all the way where I want to be. And I've come a really long way.
Me neither. We're all on the path.
Yeah, we're always on the path. Yeah. I mean, they're all different levels, of love and acceptance and all that. So anyways, I wanted to share that because it's a very real thing to tell our audience. It doesn't matter how much you tell your kids that you love and adore them and their bodies are amazing. If you're looking in the mirror and going like this, or you're looking in the mirror and going, ugh, or you're looking, when they see you and the way you behave or the way you're like looking at your food or you eat and you go, oh God, I ate too much again. Oh, I hate myself. Yeah. They will pick up on that. And that's what they're going to pick up on. They're not going to pick up on what you're saying to them. So everyone, I know we pounded this into your head now. I loved having you here today. We've had so many great discussions on and off camera. I really encourage everyone to go to your YouTube channel because you do a free workshop a couple times a year, right? For women, about body love. Yeah.
Body love, yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. And then what is that? It's a 10-week course?
Yes, it's a 10 weeks course and we meet every week for 1.5 hours and then we explore each topic. And it starts with body, but then we go deeper and it's like exploring sexuality, specifically female sexuality. Okay. And then we had one section where I invite vulnerable men and we can ask them all the questions. And that's the interesting part. That's awesome. Something maybe you never asked your husband, but you can ask this man.
Oh, interesting. That's awesome. All right. So if you go to Luba's YouTube channel and you subscribe to her YouTube channel, you will be informed of the next free workshop that you can attend. So that's an amazing gift. That's so generous of you. 10 weeks to help women for free. That's awesome.
I love that. That's my passion and I enjoy doing that. So.
Awesome. That's so good. You're such a generous heart and you're such a joy. And thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank our audience for being here too. I hope that this has been of tremendous value to you. And I hope that you've learned so much to help you take your relationship and your life from Fizzle to Sizzle.
Very grateful to you, Bridget. Thank you.